Despite the small number of monsters at a measly 12, Starhenge is massive. It's one of the most monumental islands in the entire series and also one of the biggest beasts to take on for Monstercast. Due to the small roster, we weren't able to structure things like a typical Monstercast video, so instead we decided to do a countdown from worst to best, followed by an overview of the island's composition and structure. This is so no Celestial goes unnoticed and so I can really give the full picture of the island here. This won't be the only time I structure a video like this, but all of the islands we are planning for this kind of structure we will be saving for the end of the series, since they will have the most amount of discussion for our group. With all that said, let's get into the ranking. So, taking the worst spot, it's a pretty predictable Furnos placement. Not to totally discredit Furnos, as it's not bad in any way and has a huge impact on the song. It's just that compared to the other Celestials, it's easily the weakest one, as it's the simplest of the bunch since it's just a simple drum loop. It's also more so meant to be background fodder rather than anything to really focus on, unlike Syncopite, so there's really not a lot to talk about, which is kind of disappointing considering it's the Celestial of Fire in Dawn of Fire, but that's getting into biased territory, so I won't touch on that. Overall, it's a fine drum loop that helps in filling the second half of the song. At 11th, we have Syncopite. Similar to Furnos, it ranks lower than the rest of the Celestials as it's really just a simple electric drum loop. However, this time it's meant to be the focus of the song in its duet with Blossom, essentially making it a lot more meaningful to the song at Furnos. Again, due to its simplicity, there's not a whole lot to talk about here, but it is undeniably impactful, and removing Syncopite makes the song far worse, so this monster earned its place alongside the others. This next one might be a bit controversial as our opinions on this monster are generally all over the place, but at 10th we chose Galvana. Its first track has a really good build up and vocal performance, and when she hits that high note it's nothing short of stellar. The second track is also pretty good at duetting nicely with the other monsters and not overpowering Blossom. It's just that like Syncopite and Furnos, it's on the simpler side of things and doesn't have as much to offer compared to the others. It's still a really good monster altogether and does a great job adding flourish to the song, and removing Galvana does make the song worse. It's just that the monsters ahead of it are all just that much more impactful. At 9th we have Glacier, and I really like this one. Its drum is pretty good, adding a nice supportive track to help out Tort in the song. It's actually really cleverly used in the song, as well as in the second half it goes from being support to the main percussionist. Its rhythm is pretty solid and pairs well with the other percussion, and of course his vocal track is really sound, doing a good job adding age and melody together and sounding really pleasing to listen to despite its raspy voice. It's a really good performance all things considered, and it duets with Blossom swimmingly. Similar to the other monsters, it only ranks this low only because it's on the simpler side of things compared to the other monsters. Every monster I've talked about so far has one thing in common. They're pretty simple, which ranks them lower compared to the much more complex stuff we're about to get into, with one exception. Overall, Glacier is a fantastic monster and I think it's heavily overlooked. At 8th we have Tort. Now, just because Tort ranked 8th doesn't really discredit it from its quality. It's one of the best percussion tracks in all of MSM. Tort does a stellar job providing a good stellar beat for the song, and keeping the pace of the song intact in the first half, but it's also got those tom hits that really shake up the rhythm and add a bassy punch to the song, with it adding lots of power to the end when things ramp up, and ending it all with those cymbal crashes in the climax. Tort is a perfect monster in every way. The only reason it ranks this low is only because the rest of the monsters are just that good. At 7th we have Ludwig, and take this one with a pinch of salt as it could realistically be moved up a spot. It's not really bass, but it pretty much acts as the bass of the song, keeping the chords of the song together and adding a dark, intense feel to the song. This works amazingly well towards the climax as the tense nature of the track helps in building up the song to get into the more bombastic feel of the climax. Its high notes also add a ton, making the track more interesting and in adding a subtle layer of tension that really goes a long way and doesn't take away from the triumphant feel of the song at all. Once again, this is a perfect monster in every way and really subverts expectations. At 6th we have Atmos, one of the most celestial feeling Celestials. Its guitar part is solid, melding into the song perfectly, playing off of Scarter amazingly well and helping Cornicle and Ludwig towards the climax. Where Atmos really shines though is with his vocal track. The voice is really unique and memorable. The echo added to it makes it feel like it's calling out from a void, and its melody is perfect. does a perfect job being the lead at the beginning and doing a masterful job at duetting with Plixie in the climax. It is a very inspiring monster and adds a ton of personality, tension, and memorability to the song. Now we're getting into the hugely monumental monsters. At 5th, we have Plixie. Man, where do we even begin with this monster? Well, firstly, this is one of the most powerful and captivating vocal performances in the entire series. Its dynamics, its voice, its vibrato, it all comes together perfectly for this soft yet powerful melody that takes its time in the spotlight and duets perfectly with all the other monsters when they come in. It also serves as a nice contrast to the rest of the song. While things are getting more and more bombastic, Plixie holds its own and stays put with a soft and atmospheric melody, which makes it really stand out and not get overshadowed by the other monsters. Like I said, what really sells it is the performance. It almost has a quality of use to it, and like Atmos sounds like it's calling out from a void, making it really unique alongside the other Celestials, and making it work really well alongside Atmos. This is easily one of the most awe-inspiring vocals in all of MSM, and it only ranks 5th. At 4th, we have Hornacle. Its first track does a good job adding variation to the beginning and transitioning into the Plixieverse, as well as sounding powerful and mysterious, which complements Atmos perfectly. What really lands it here is everything that comes afterwards. The deep ominous tones as well as the high triumphant ones come together to make the tension and build up and energy of the climax. Without Hornacle, the climax completely loses all of its power and energy, and yet despite this, it still allows all the other monsters to play alongside of it perfectly. This is more of a personal thing, but when I listen to Hornacle, it feels like the deep, powerful ocean calling out, and I live for it. This is the best brass track in all of MSM, hands down, no questions asked. Alright, we've made it to the top 3, which will probably be the most predictable top 3 of all time. Taking the bronze, it's my Celestial Vamp. When I mentioned earlier that the simpler tracks rank lower because of their simplicity, there was one exception to that, and that's Vamp. Compared to the other monsters, it's a lot simpler, but I can't deny how mesmerizing and beautiful this monster sounds. Its progression is gorgeous, its sound font is pure bliss, and its bass it adds in the second track is perfect. In the song itself, well, no vamp, no song, simple as that. It's the entire feeling and adds so much to the emotion to the end, and with Blasum and Sid combined, it's magic. Taking the silver is Blasum. Wow, shocking, I know. Anyways, this is one of the most emotional, bloated, awe-inspiring, dynamic, complex, and memorable melodies BB has ever made. It's just simply that amazing. It starts out soft and tender, but it slowly builds up into these rich, powerful, and mesmerizing long and high notes at the end. And like I said, alongside the monsters playing with it and supporting it, it pulls it off amazingly well and leaves a gigantic impact. The bassoon was also the best instrument for the job, as it really does a perfect job at creating that softness in the beginning and making that build up all the more powerful. Once again, Blasum is flawless in every way, and there is no better way to praise it than by listening to it. Big shocker, I know, taking the gold is Skartar. Awe-inspiring is the best way to describe this monster and this song as a whole. It has melody, it has chords, it has those effects, the wind in the background, the percussive hits of its string. It's practically a song all on its own, and yet it still lets every single monster play alongside it perfectly well, and helps out the others during the build-up of the climax. Duets perfectly with Plixie, adds to the mysterious feel of Hornacle and Atmos, plays alongside Galvana amazingly well. It's sheer perfection. That's it. No other way to put it. It's perfect, and it's easy to see why this monster is one of the most beloved monsters in all of MSM. Starhenge is really interesting in this composition. It's pretty much divided into two halves. The first half is a super orchestral song with a slow but steady build up from mysterious and atmospheric to bombastic and triumphant in its climax, with everything pointing to that direction. The second half is a more soothing and soft song, also with its own build up, to exciting and lively. It's pretty much two songs wrapped into one, and we've seen this before with Air Island, but Starhenge does it way better. It's actually mind-blowing how well both halves build-ups are orchestrated and executed. Like, seriously, take the time to really think about how well both halves manage to naturally build up. The first half getting a minute and the second half getting a mere 50 seconds. And it works. Super well too. It's amazing just how well executed the theme, structure, and build-up of this island are, despite the short time it gets. I think Starhenge really goes to show how you can do so much even when you're given very little. In Starhenge's case, a small roster and a short runtime. So that's Starhenge, and well, duh. Like, really, duh. This was the most obvious answer I've given to any island yet. So that's that. Do you agree or disagree? Do you find diamonds in the sky or have nothing to show? Let me know in the comments below. Well, that's it for me, and I'll see you in the next one.